Hi guys, I hope you're doing alright. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about 4 different techniques which can be used to help you in arguments on social media where you are being misrepresented, and I get into these a lot. I'm a conservative. I don't support the conservative ideology of the United Kingdom, so for example a lot of people think that I automatically in favour of the Conservative Party, which is not always true. That's not always the case. On top of that, I fall into the political right. So technically I see myself as being very traditional. I believe in natural and inevitable social hierarchies, and I also believe in having a good economic system which can support the people who are on the bottom rung of society. Much like myself, I'm a minimum wage earner, and I think, I think that's really, really important to sort of focus on these specific political ideologies. I'm very, very traditional. Anyway, outside of all of that, people sometimes misconstrue that and think, oh, I'm some sort of Nazi because of it, because they do not understand what right-wing actually means, they don't understand what left-wing actually means, and they think that left is good and right is bad, and that's kind of the way things are. Anyway, so here are the techniques on Actually, if you want to look up left and right wing, it's very, very interesting. Just look them up on Wikipedia, look them up online. You can really, really get a good idea of these things. Anyway, here are the 4 techniques which have been presented to me by my friend Dennis to help me in my arguments, and I think that they will be very helpful to you as well. So first of all, stop and think. This is something which I very rarely do because I get emotionally involved in my arguments all the time, and it really, really lets me down. Recently someone accused me of being a Trump supporter, whereas I was more in favour of Joe Jorgensen winning and Spike Cohen. They're the Libertarian parties. Trump is Republican, Biden is Democrat. I prefer Trump to Biden. I can get into that later. So I didn't really stop and think, well, actually, if you're arguing that I like Trump, why don't I just argue against that? Because that's the main point. So what I should have done is, instead of arguing badly against this person, I really lost it with him, because he just kept going and going and going, kept saying I was a Trump supporter because I was very anti-Biden in one of the posts that I made. So I thought, well, I just had a go at him, and I was very, very unfair, and he was very unfair as well. It was a real bloodbath, and it destroyed a friendship, and that was very, very bad. I didn't stop and think and take a step back and think, how am I going to respond? So stop and think is the most important part of this, because you can't just kick out and attack and basically just think, no, I'm going to go for your gullet as well. Because the thing is, emotions will destroy your arguments a lot better than actually arguing for yourself. You don't get emotional. Stop and think things through. Second thing, get evidence. If somebody accuses you of something that you haven't done, or something that you are not involved with, you get evidence. You bring that evidence and you say, if you think that I am a Trump supporter, why don't you bring some evidence? If they bring the evidence, you can refute it. You can say, well, actually this, actually that. But that means that they have to go through the whole process of acquiring the evidence and bringing that to the argument. It gives you time to breathe, it gives you time to think, and it gives you time to argue back properly. So get them to evidence their arguments. If you've got an argument, you present your evidence consistently. Just say, well, if I'm this, how is it that I believe this? I mean, another person can't really talk for you like you can talk for yourself. So if you evidence your arguments, you're not going to have a problem in that way. Thirdly, clarify. Clarification is really, really, really important when it comes to things, because the thing is, a lot of the time it comes down to miscommunication. I fell out with somebody because they think I'm right-wing and that makes me evil. So that's a bad thing. So instead of rather saying having a go and fighting with this person, what I should have done is just say, what do you think right-wing means? Here is what I think right-wing means. Get them to clarify their position on it, you clarify your position on it, and try and get a dialogue established around that, because that way you're going to get a much better response from the person you're arguing with. Because if you're arguing and you have no clarity, they have this amorphous thing that you don't really understand. You never understand your opponent's argument until they actually present it. You never understand what the opponent sees as bad until they present it. I mean, are we talking Black Lives Matter? Are we talking the Black Lives Matter organisation? 2 different things. The fact of the matter is, it all comes down to a very, very small point of, you need to make sure that your opponent is arguing against what you stand for, and you are arguing what you stand for, and your opponent knows what you stand for, and you know what your opponent thinks you stand for, because that's the only way you're going to have a proper discussion. Otherwise, you're going to end up in a massive, massive, massive situation where you're going to fight with people. It's going to be really, really horrible, and you're just going to come out of it and you're going to lose friends. It's going to be really, really, really problematic. Sorry about that, got distracted, went off on a tangent, usually do. So anyway, the final point which my friend brought up is allowing your opponent's ignorance to show. And this is a really, really big problem, because a lot of the time the opponent doesn't really know what they're talking about. I find this very, very often in political arguments. And this is something that I am guilty of myself at sometimes. Sometimes I get involved in a brawl which I really have no part of, and this can come back to bite me. So anyway, if we go back to, for example, allowing your opponent's ignorance to show, what you do is, during the clarification process, what you do is you tease apart what they're actually saying. Why do you believe this, for example? This is a really, really good question. Well, because everyone does. Does everyone believe this? I don't believe this. I don't have the moral opinion that this fits in this way. What you've got to do is you've got to use evidence to your advantage and basically prove that your point is something very, very different to what your opponent's arguing against, because majority of the time that is true. If they're misrepresenting you, they do not understand what your points are. They do not understand your argument, so they can't really argue against you. It is a very, very weak position to argue from when you don't understand another person, you don't understand their feelings, thoughts, emotions or motives. The fact of the matter is, you cannot say with utmost certainty what another person is thinking, and neither can your opponent, so they can't actually judge you on what you're saying either. You've got a really, really powerful advantage in this argument. So if we take a little bit of a step back to what I was saying earlier, when I was talking about Trump and Biden, I've got very, very big distaste with Biden because, not because of, I think Trump's done particularly well. I mean, he's done okay as a president. If you can walk away and say, oh, I don't think Trump's done anything good, well, you don't know anything about Trump. That's first thing. It's very, very simple to say that, because Trump has done a heck of a lot for people, and you can actually look it up if you can be bothered. And that's the fact of the matter. It's a matter of whether or not you can be bothered to look at the good which Trump's done, rather than just the bad and the things that he said on Twitter. Now, if you look at Biden, there's the Biden crime bill, which is incredibly racist, and it's caused a lot of damage to African Americans. There's been a lot of exploitation. A lot of families have been broken up because of things like that. Then he's got the Iraq war, which he was quite proud of being a part of, even though he didn't believe that Iraq had nuclear weapons. You can look this up and evidence this if you can be bothered. There's a huge amount of stuff that Joe Biden's actually done wrong in his political career. He's a serial liar. He's done a lot of things which are being incredibly bad. And quite frankly, when you look at Kamala Harris, the fact that she's smirking at the fact that people have died from COVID, I think that's incredibly sinister. That was in the vice presidential debate which she had with Mike Pence. There's a huge amount of stuff which Kamala Harris has done which is incredibly bad as well. So, you know, she's the vice president. If we take a step back and have a little look at the people he's putting in his cabinet, yeah, they're all responsible for refugee crises, drone warfare, a load of other twisted stuff that's going on. So you're getting this whole picture of a person who I wouldn't really think would be suitable to be a president. Now, whilst Donald Trump's done quite a few things which are a little bit questionable, nothing raises the bar quite as high as just over 1,000 Americans dying in the Iraq war. You've got 30,000 people who were injured. You've got a huge amount of people who have really, really suffered throughout his entire career of perverting everything. So he's been an incredibly nasty, you know, venomous presence throughout his entire career, whereas Trump has just really hit the centre stage for a little bit. He hit it running, he reduced unemployment, wars went down, there was a lot of stuff going on in terms of he made things a little bit better. He could have basically pushed the buttons and made things a lot worse, but he reduced tensions with Korea, he reduced, you know, the tensions with Kim Jong-un. There were a lot of different things that he did which were positive. So we have all these questions, and then there's like the blanket bans from the media, which is a little bit spurious. We've got huge amounts of weird stuff going on. And to be honest, whilst I don't really want to touch any of that stuff, I think that the whole election has been an incredibly spurious process, and I'm really worried that there may be some sort of horrific violence at the end of it. And I am as close to being as pacifist without being a pacifist as you can probably be. I don't want violence. I don't like war. I don't like any of these kind of things. I don't like the manipulation of other governments' economies. I don't like the taking of other people's resources. I think that we should stay out of it, everybody else's politics. That's the main reasons why I think that Trump is a better president than Biden. But then again, I would rather have had Joe Jorgensen, and I would rather have had Spike Cohen being the president. That's the thing. It comes down to a matter of perspective. And if I just stayed there and just said, actually, your arguments about climate change, which were brought into this, were wrong. You don't understand what I stand for. It doesn't make sense. If I just said, you're arguing against the wrong person. I'm not supporting Trump. I was very, very supportive of the Libertarian campaign, especially in Tennessee. The fact of the matter is, that's one argument which could have been a lot easier. I mean, I've been involved in a heck of a lot of different things politically, and it's not been for Trump. It's been against Trump because of that. And I turn around and I'm getting called a supporter, but I got emotional, so I didn't stop and think. I didn't ask for evidence, not enough evidence. I did ask for a little bit. I was like, where's your evidence? And he said, well, it's in your post. It's because I was anti-Biden in the post. That's not really evidence that I'm a supporter of Trump, particularly. I looked back and I said, well, maybe we'll look back on Orange Man and say, actually, he's not so bad. Now, the fact of the matter is, that doesn't necessarily say I support Trump. I should have got him to clarify his statements, clarify his beliefs and everything like that, because it would have allowed me to actually tear things apart. But I was too emotional. I didn't think. I allowed that to destroy what I saw as being a very good friendship. But then again, looking back at it, maybe it wasn't a good friendship. If my friend wasn't willing to believe me when I said, look, I'm not for this, I think maybe it was the right thing to just part ways and be done with it, because after a certain point things got incredibly abusive and very, very, very threatening, I found. But the fact of the matter is, take a step out of it, don't think about it too much. And what I should have really done is allow his ignorance to show on the matter. I did kind of do a bit of that, but the fact of the matter is, I was just trying to push buttons as well. I didn't fight fairly in that. It was a horrible, horrible situation, and it did a lot of damage. And I feel bad about it. I really do. I shouldn't really be saying all this stuff on YouTube, probably, but at the end of the day, it's important to clarify what you believe when it comes to a political argument. And a lot of the time when you're arguing with someone, both of you want what's morally right. Both of you want what's in the best interest of people. Both of you want everybody to be happy. But the fact of the matter is, because of the way that everybody thinks about specific things in life, it's like left-wing good, right-wing bad, for example. That's one thing which is really annoying, because it's like the amount of right-wing people I know that constantly give to charity, just like myself, the right amount of the people that I know who have literally been fighting against racism, and they've helped me take down websites, they fall into the political right of the spectrum. I mean, I've worked with some left-wing libertarians on doing that stuff as well. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter what political spectrum. If we're doing what's right, what helps people, that's good, right? And that, to be honest, that's another thing. A lot of people may potentially watch this and think, maybe this guy's against freedom of speech. It's not that I mind. I don't care about people. Anyone can say whatever they want, but what I do care about, in the perspective of arguments, is more a matter of, are they inciting violence? If they're inciting violence against a group of people, if they're saying, we're going to attack a group of people, we're going to hurt a group of people, we should attack a group of people, that's a no. That is not freedom of speech. That is incitement to violence. That is a very, very different thing. And that's something that should be stomped on. The fact of the matter is, a lot of people do not understand racism, they do not understand sexism, they do not understand gender fluidity. A lot of people do not understand the majority of political arguments on the internet. And the majority, because of that simple fact, they don't understand your opinion on it, because they do not know you as a person to the level where they can actively argue against you, which means that in the majority of cases you're being misrepresented if people are arguing with you. And a lot of the times they'll bring their friends into the conversation as well. And this is a really, really, really big problem, because when they bring the friends in, the friends can create all sorts of chaos. They'll basically be liking all of the things. They won't allow you to speak. They'll keep asking like side questions. The key to dealing with that is just ignore the friends, ignore what they're saying. Just argue against the person who's arguing. Then if the person stops arguing and a friend keeps arguing, you can argue against that person because they want to continue the point. They don't understand you, they don't understand your opinion, they don't understand anything, so you can argue against them quite comfortably and you can still do a good job. The fact of the matter is, you've got to clarify and just say, this person was misrepresenting me. I did it with another friend who got actually involved in this because he was liking this person's comments, my other friend's comments. And I contacted him and I said, look, I'm being misrepresented here. What's going on? And my other friend was just like, oh, gee, I'm sorry. Let's talk about it. And we caught up, we had a catch up. It was great. It was like I was able to actually catch up with one of my friends he's going through a lot at the moment. He's an amazing guy. I've literally worked with this guy on so many different projects. And I met him working in a role where I was teaching him, and he's literally come so far. He's doing so well, and I think that he's literally an amazing dude. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked, but the main thing is, don't let anyone misrepresent you in an argument. It's not worth it, and it's not going to be beneficial to you. At the end of the day, the only person who understands your argument is yourself, and you can always force your opponent to clarify. Make sure that they definitely know what they're arguing about before they argue against you, because otherwise they're arguing against nothing. They do not understand where you are coming from. They do not understand your point of view. They do not understand your politics, your religion, anything. Because even people who practice exactly the same religion have a different way of practicing it. Not everybody is the same. You can't use the same book of tricks to beat everyone. But these 4 little techniques will really help you when it comes to your arguments, and it will really help you stopping making mistakes like me, which cost friendships, which cost you time and energy, which are bad. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful, and I'm going to go back to hopefully not arguing with people. Anyway, have a fantastic day. Oh yeah, stay out of politics. That's always a good thing. You take care. Have a fantastic day, and thanks for watching. Bye.